Hello and welcome to the 88th part of the Civilization Battle Royale. My name is Dawkinzz and let's get right into it. This part is brought to you by Scissorfingers. He's a power ranker, modder, and very occasionally an artist. We start off with the amazing Dawkinzz medals. Always such a great source of OC for the sub. He's awesome and he does a comic, I think, every part. I wonder what medals this part will inspire. Normal maps don't really show us ocean borders, which are critical for troop movement, so when Nathan Mace helped us all out with this super useful map, we got to see a lot more context. Nathan Mace, I'm sorry if I butchered your shit. Here you see the most ocean-encompassing country is Australia, as expected, but it looks like the Boers aren't far behind. The Boers would do well to develop a navy that would rival the Wobbegong. Last part, the Inuit managed to steal the #1 spot from the resident ranker favorite, the Boers. We rankers are a clingy bunch and didn't want to let go of our orange death robots for long. The Trunks are facing the wrath of Kruger, and the last time orange met green, an entire continent was secured. We start the part off with a shot of the front lines. The Boers are still starting their advance into Vietnam. They have rallied around Jerusalem, maybe hoping to receive blessings from the Spartan gods of war and victory. Armenia, perhaps hoping to prove to the rankers that Vietnam is a friend, signs a research agreement with them. On Greener's side of the shot, Vietnam is hurriedly rushing units to both of their front lines, having successfully taken Carleton from Sibir. Is this the start of a breakthrough, or is this city destined to flip back and forth? Hopefully not to the Boers anytime soon. Ah, mighty Texas. They are probably one of the safest city-states in the cylinder, only at war with Brazil, who can't even reach them. Although it seems like Brazil lacks the navy to take on the outdated Texans anyways. It seems like they had decided to host the famous peacekeepers, the Hawaiian Globetrotters. Alert! The Kimberley are planning to attack another civ with naval assets. Probably Sri Lanka. Hopefully Sri Lanka, because let's get real, they're not going to be attacking anybody else and living. This news would be far more exciting if it wasn't the 300th time the Kimberley was attacking Sri Lanka, in quotes. I predict that all of that will come out of this is that a fleet will go up to Sri Lanka and yell obscenities until they get tired and sail back home. In other news, the Blackfoot carpet has started to leak into Vietnam. Ooh. We see Wollongara quickly approaching Kanaohe as the most densely populated island on the cylinder as it prepares for the war effort. They're building jet fighters, a wise choice, considering the amount of carriers in their navy. Now, if only Vietnam started to build an air force, maybe learn something from these rumps. Here is the Swedish-Siberian border, freshly drawn after Kekkonen was evicted from the premises. Maybe he missed a rent payment, I'm not sure. Maybe it's gentrification and the rents are rising up. That's a serious problem. One thing that is painfully obvious, though, is that Sibir has basically no land army here. Ugh. People complain that Sibir is too low on the rankings, but this slide is a perfect reason why they don't deserve to be higher. They are barren anywhere except the Vietnamese front. A declaration of war from Sweden would tear through Sibir almost as fast as they tore through Finland. Come on, Sweden, make a move and secure superpower status. You're pretty much our only hope against the Boer menace. And there goes the battle! Little Pokemon Stadium reference for you. Antioch, temporary seat of the Finnish government, gets taken by a Swedish organic infantry. The Finnish cyber-sub fleet trapped in the Black Sea can only watch in resigned acceptance as the Finnish Empire crashes around them. Kekkonen flees to Tigranocerta, relying on the protection of Vietnamese peacekeepers as he abandons his people in Tashkent and Yerushalayim, leaving them to the mercy of the Swedish menace, a lone mech artillery to defend the cities against them. Vietnam sends a paltry cyber-sub fleet against the Boer menace, hoping to face the famed Boer caravel and giant death robot combination. A big weakness Vietnam has is shown here plainly. There are no planes. Even the Kimberley, on one carrier at least, has more planes than Vietnam has in all the cities in this shot. I know flying is scary, but I promise you it will help you win. Now we zoom in on the War of the Mountains as a Sri Lankan tank camps out in Razdan, hoping to catch a glimpse of the action. The war is turning in Vietnam's favor, but they need to peace out as soon as possible if they want to hold on to Arabia. A lone Australian digger visits the city founded by Kimberleyan refugees in Sibir. Not gonna bother. Is he paying respects to the once great nation that his ancestors fought? You've got to wonder, what is Sibir building in all of these cities? They're obviously not making units, otherwise they'd be an actual military presence in the area. Do the people of Sibir actually know that they're at war with East Asia, Vietnam? As Laxaraxariscal hypothesized, Hawaii's mind control of Australia is shown through their peacekeepers. The Aussies have formed a protective wall at Bomda, preventing Vietnamese attack or Siberian counterattack. Also, damn, that Mongolian carpet is thick as fuck. Freaking teases, showing off but never giving us some of that sweet, sweet carpet action. As noted in the last part, Brazil and Australia have signed declarations of friendship and are seen vacationing together in Korea. Quite a bunch of Korea boos if you ask me. Also, Korea is starting to build up a land army, maybe a little too late, but folding the steel 1,000 times takes patience. Oh, this is just pathetic. All of Korean China and the Korean Peninsula is completely occupied by Australian units. Someone should tell Sejong that to win a domination game, one needs to actually build units. Also, bad news for Vietnam, it seems that Australia does not share open borders with them. Is this a sign of a foreboding Aussie declaration of war? Here we see Australia throwing their garbage patch at other nations. The dump they've chosen? Brazil. Seriously, Brazil, the only country that you are at war with, Texas, could destroy your entire navy in this shot without taking a serious loss. Yet somehow they're third place, Power Rankers. Think about it. Tibet, the eternal turtle, for some reason has not founded their religion yet, choosing instead to yell at fellow rump Texas, a brutal enemy. Maybe Houston did not pay his order of the rump dues this week, but here also we see Vietnam's reserves, quite numerous and enough to stave off Boer attack and plow straight into Sibir. Now, only if they could actually get them to the front lines. The men of the garrison of Tashkent were brave men. Their government abandoned them, left them to die. Their eternal leader ran away from the Swedes along with the military. The civilians ran and hid as well. But not these men. These men saw the Swedes and they stood their ground. Sweden takes Tashkent. We finally revisit the front lines and Jericho seems to have fallen to a Boer biotrooper. Is it just me or is the Vietnamese carpet looking just a bit more sparse? Nazran falls to the Boers as well. Vietnam seems to be suffering major losses, but they finally seem to have gotten the hint and placed 10 planes in Baghdad. Will this make the recapture easier? Someone should tell the Orange fleets that they're at war. They seem more comfortable enjoying the tropical islands of Middelburg and Ondini. I know some captains take R&R seriously, but damn. Sibir flips back Carrollton, but Vietnam seems poised to take it back. This war is more trouble than it's worth for the Trunks. What happened to their legendary peace negotiating skills? Not much has changed here. Well, the stalemate continues. So, we're probably going to get a lot of these kinds of shots in the future, just showing a stalemate between these two major powers. So, write in the comments a suggestion that you would want for the slide to spice it up. Give me a little spice-a-rooney. What can make these slides more interesting? The true brain of Australia is shown here. The Hawaiian border looks kinda like a chicken wing, which is something I just wrote because I have no idea what else there is to say about these guys, other than that they're just biding their time, just being peaceful, hip dudes, until someone comes and gobbles them up. Very much, in fact, like a chicken wing. Little is known about the elusive Mini Pedro, the regent of the Brazilian Empire, but our spies have informed us that his refusal to build a navy stems from the fact that he thinks the ocean is a giant toilet for fish and refuses to go into the icky water. Matthew Perry, Buccaneer Admiral Extraordinaire, has been tasked with improving economic relations with the Boers. Like, could he be any more economical? Lazily, he sends a message across the Skynet to Kruger himself. It reads, "Open the country, stop having it be closed." The Boers have lost nearly 500 million people due to starvation, but you'd never be able to tell because they keep pumping out units like nobody's business. The Trungs have many reasons to fear Kruger, and this is just one of them. I am led to believe, in my own personal headcanon, that the organic part of their society is just dying off due to starvation, and it's being replaced by robots. Inglefur, please invade Sweden while they're rebuilding. Actually, don't, because your navy is mainly carriers, and then the Inuit will just come crush you. Sweden makes its final push towards Järnverterstadt, but a pesky Armenian anti-air gun is in the way, forcing Sweden to make a coastal landing. Armenia really squashed the last hope they had at uniting their cities, but by not dogpiling on Finland. Well, too little too late, Armenia. You're just going to be squished in a matter of turns anyway, I bet. More progress as the Boringe borders now include Vung Tau. The Vietnamese appear to have constructed a defensive line around Baghdad and Pascarderer. I think this is as far as the Boers will go, but who knows, they're unstoppable killing machines. The Boer Navy is nowhere to be seen as Vietnamese subs and arsenal ships ride up and down the coast unchallenged. Vietnam also seems to be bringing troops to the action, while it seems like Kruger has failed to provide his troops with reinforcements. One of the theories on Boer depopulation is based on the fact that the average Boer is not a human anymore, but actually a digital consciousness that has been uploaded to the Skynet. That would explain the fact that they don't need bodies anymore and a reduction in population. Didn't I just say that? Man. At this point, one must question Vietnam more than Sibir. How the hell have you not destroyed a civ this empty and devoid of units? Maybe the repeated nuking from the Finno-Siberian War many parts ago left them unable to think of nothing but building troops and troops and troops, but not accomplishing anything. Here we see the Vietnamese are slowly unpuppeting their cities in their western regions. The Trung's experiment with decentralization is now over, and now they are ready to take charge of the massive resources at their disposal. Genghis, as he looked on the vast hills and plains of the steppe, sees peace. As he bends down and plucks a flower from the grass, he hears children running from yurt to yurt, playing hide and seek. Their laughs fill him with sadness, though. These are his Mongolians, his children. He knows that one day their laughs will be replaced with cries. Cries of anger, cries of fear, cries of sadness, and then silence. He dreads the day he knows will have to come, but all he can do is prepare and pray that tomorrow isn't that day. The Boer offensive seems to have evaporated. Jericho is wide open, so come on Vietnam, this is your chance. At this point in the war, it seems a given conclusion that the Boers will keep Arabia. The real question is whether they will advance any farther. The Trungs have noticed this and have pulled their planes out of Baghdad, relocating them somewhere safer. Or maybe they were shot down, but hey, let's remain optimistic for the Vietnamese. The Boers have amassed their robotic armies at the Horn of Africa in order to have them cross the Red Sea into Arabia. The Vietnamese cyber sub, not being able to recapture their cities, have resigned themselves to harassing Boer ships in the vicinity in the meantime. The Trungs flip Carrollton, and hopefully this time it will stay green. At Järnverterstadt, one of the last Finnish exclaves, Sweden starts a siege with organic infantry. Coming to finally realize how screwed he is, Kekkonen pieces out with the biggest threat to his empire, Tibet. Vietnam also finally reclaims Bomda, and this time it seems to be for good. This war is just like the Great Vietnamese-Australian War, a pointless meat grinder for both empires to throw units at. Here we get a shot of Scandinavia finally unified in royal Swedish yellow. An Icelandic XCOM watches as Sweden starts bringing these new provinces to their former glory. If there's anything for Ingolfur to fear, it is Gustavus's newfound power. The Blackfoot are actually making very nice progress here. They are teching up, shown by their new biotroopers, which we actually did see last part, and they are developing an overflowing carpet. None of it matters though. Winter is coming. But they are the watchers on the wall, the Night's Watch, or as I prefer, the Men in Black, as they will defeat any alien threat to their sovereign nation. Last part, Laxaraxariskel explained why she thought Iceland is the nicest place to live. I say it's actually Inuit Canada/Texas. They have grown quite well, the scars of war healed over centuries, and they are in one of the safest spots on the cylinder. Iceland lives on perpetual fear of a coalition war from the Inuit, Sweden, and the Boers, but the Inuit don't have any real threats that can cause them existential harm. The high standard of living, safety, and the nicer climate of these regions place it as the cylinder's prime real estate. I'm seriously thinking that during the reboot, Pedro rolled a negative naval bias. Has he contracted the garbage patch to do coastal security for him? Thankfully, these two nations have absolutely no history of animosity between one another, and they'll always have been best lovers. A Korean caravel, while swimming across the deep, encounters an Australian flotilla armed to the teeth with missiles. Maybe the crew of this caravel could do the same by bolting a hwacha on their deck. Iceland also joins in the caravel trend and sends 2 caravels on a scenic tour of the South American coast. Sri Lanka seems to have built itself a nice little carpet, but unfortunately it is completely surrounded by Vietnam. I just realized, is Sri Lanka just a bigger version of Tibet? If Tibet is the brains of Nam, what does that make Sri Lanka? The heart? The liver? Or the colon? Cougar is making a push on Baghdad, bombing it down to the red. Is this the last of Vietnamese Arabia? If only the Trungs cared to build melee units to take it back. You know that one shot of the Boer Navy a little while ago? Where did they go? Are they going to confront the cyber sub fleet or not? These Vietnamese ships can't do anything because Vietnam did not bother to create melee naval ships. In other news, a Sri Lankan convoy is escorting a Hawaiian grape merchant across the coast of Africa, hoping to take advantage of the sudden breakout of free trade. Boer reinforcements are trickling in and Gyumri is in the red. It is a stark contrast to the real-world Middle East, which is incredibly peaceful at all times. Sweden takes Järvantashot, officially kicking Finland out of all of Europe. Maybe it's time to refer to Finland as what was suggested in the sub. Say goodbye to Finland and everyone say hi to Exclavia. Kamsha Khan takes back Carrollton and makes moves towards Nishapur, currently quite vulnerable. They say that insanity is doing something over and over and over again, and if that's true, Kamsha and the Trungs are the biggest nutcases on the cylinder. Again, gonna need suggestions to spice these babies up, because these slides are so boring. I just want them to declare peace already. The Trungs gather their forces at Khost, Nyangchi, and Nangchuka. The young men and women in their armies reduce nothing but numbers and units on the vast chessboard of war. Millennia ago, when Stalin was asked about raising of Leningrad, he responded, "One death is a tragedy, a million is a statistic." That's not even a good Russian accent. This war has generated quite a lot of statistics. I figured out why Sabir doesn't like to make land units. The Chinese knights near Haminlina must have driven fear into the hearts of the Siberians so much so that the normal Siberian would rather join the navy to throw themselves at Vietnam rather than to share a carpet with Comrade Mao. The half-dozen useful ships in Pedro's navy make their way to Europe for some reason. Does this signal a future declaration of war against the Boers? Or maybe they want to defect to a nation with an actual navy, like Iceland? Looking at city populations here, it seems like Brazil has not suffered as much from the Great Famine as much as other countries were. This means that Pedro has a strong core that he can rely on as he makes war on his neighbors, whoever they may be. Well, I mean, let's get real, there's only one clear choice, and he's not doing anything about it, so yeah. And now we conclude our part with a shot of major cities worldwide. We begin with Seoul. Sejong decided that the best way to redevelop his military was to not build any military units at all, deciding to work on satellites instead. People should remind him that this game doesn't have a scientific victory. We worried that nukes were not going to be used in Mark 2.1, but Genghis is letting his newly hired general, straight from the invasion of Mali, Gandhi, make the decisions here. Parakramabahu is trying hard to catch up with his neighbors in tech, but the great scientist that he will soon unlock will only delay the inevitable. Maybe he should pick out his new outfit for when he becomes added to the Trung sisters' collection of leaders. Stockholm focuses its citizens on food as it desperately tries to fight off the Great Famine, stealing tiles from Helsinki in the process. Conquering them wasn't enough, but now Gustavus feels the need to prolong the Finns' suffering. Finally, the info addict is upon us. The Boers, unsurprisingly, lead the world in science output, followed by Australia due to their hundreds of cities. Vietnam should really try to fix their stagnant science output if it really hopes to come out of this war victorious. Just like in real-life North Korea, Korea possesses a 99% literacy rate. Also, 3/4 of the Yakuts can read and write. That must inspire some really depressing poetry. Less than half of Tibetans can read, but who needs reading if you got a giant green friend that does all the smart stuff for you? Wait, does that mean Vietnam is the Hulk? The Boers in Vietnam are the most cultured, but what is truly inspiring is that the lowly Yakuts are even more cultured than the Australians, Swedes, and Koreans. Sri Lanka has almost no culture compared to the rest, but when they are cut off from the rest of the world by Vietnam, who could blame them? For living in a world plagued by war, famine, hatred, and death, the denizens of the CBR are quite happy. Maybe this is a case for not solving our problems in the real world, though. Yakutia is the least happy, and that's not a big surprise. With a high literacy rate, it's, I wonder what kind of emo poetry comes out of them. Well, this Dreamcatcher-like diagram is too complicated for me to describe, but surely someone in the sub will do that for me. This part has been great, and this is Scissorfingers signing off. See y'all next week. And this has been Dawkinzz. I apologize for last week, guys. It was a little bit loud. John Philip Sousa won't be returning in the future because people complained about it. I get it. It's a little too much. So I will do my best to keep focused with that. If you have any other comments, complaints, constructive criticism, you just want to insult me, I'll get sad. Don't do that. But I love you guys, and I look forward to seeing you guys again next week. Hope you enjoy this part, and this is Dawkinzz signing off. We'll see you next time.